News at noon. Our top story today, tension amid North America tariffs from the Trump administration. They're set to go into effect in just hours. We're following a deal made with Mexico actually in the past few hours and how the changes could impact prices here at home. Plus, crews are working to remove the wreckage left from last week's plane crash over the Potomac River. But first, we got to talk about this morning. It was a really slick commute. I was really busy on Sunrise. Things seem to be better now, though.
Yeah, things are getting better. The snow is winding down. Crews are going to be out taking care of the roads and things like that. Again, should see those road improvements throughout the afternoon into our evening hours. And for the most part, really much of the snow is winding down. There will be some flurries out there, especially in northern Minnesota. Also, even a chance of there being some freezing drizzle in southwest Minnesota. But I would say the worst of it is behind us. We'll take a quick look at road conditions. And again, you're going to see that in western Minnesota. Be a little tougher going with some partially covered roads there. But as you move into the Twin Cities, where we weren't expecting to see a whole lot of that snowfall, the roads looking to be okay. A lot of green on the map there. That's good. 24 degrees under cloudy skies. Feels like 12, and that's with a brisk wind from the north right now. And that is pulling in some colder air. We will hover in the 20s for the next several hours this afternoon under cloudy skies. We will see the clouds start to break, but as that's happening, colder air is starting to move in. So it is going to be a cold overnight into your Tuesday morning. But coming up in the 7-day forecast, we'll take a look at some temperature roller coaster rides and a few more opportunities that we may be talking about. More measurable snow coming up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jamie. Back out to the roads. This is a live look near the Lino Lakes area. Things are looking much better than they did a few hours ago. This morning, the south, southeast, and southwest metro were spared from horrible road conditions, but 694, 494, 35E and 35W saw the worst of that snow this morning. You see it looks good now, though. We're also seeing fewer crashes out there right now compared to this morning. Just a few hours ago, the Minnesota State Patrol posted the latest statewide crash numbers on X, and these numbers were from midnight to 8 a.m. Authorities say there were 83 property damage crashes, 4 injury crashes, sadly 1 fatal crash, 21 vehicles off the road, 5 vehicle spinouts, and 1 jackknife semi. From the looks of it, though, the evening commute should be much better. Switching gears now to taking a live look from the White House, where today world leaders are meeting with President Donald Trump just hours before his new tariffs go into effect. So far, we're seeing at least one deal. You remember the president is expected to impose tariffs of 25% on most imports from Canada and Mexico and 10% on Chinese goods. But just over an hour ago, the White House announced a month-long pause for tariffs on Mexico. That pause comes with trade and security agreements. The president is also expected to meet with Canadian leaders today. Now, even with deals being made, there are still a lot of questions about how new tariffs could impact America and who will see the biggest impacts. Joe McCoy is breaking down some of what we could see here in Minnesota.
Outside of Trader Joe's in St. Louis Park,
I got some pastries, some seaweed wraps.
Sam Lacasse is in wait-and-see mode when it comes to the impact President Trump's tariffs will have on prices.
I think it's kind of a lot of just political gesturing. I'd be curious to see how far it actually gets.
He believes, however, that if they do stay in effect long-term, the outcome might not be pretty.
Getting healthy, kind of sustainably grown vegetables and produce is like kind of a big deal. So if that becomes really expensive and inaccessible to people, I don't think that's going to go over too well.
Canada is Minnesota's largest trading partner, with the state importing $14.4 billion worth of goods from the country each year, according to the Canadian government. Much of this is crude oil, and economists say prices at the pump could increase nearly immediately.
We have not had this scale of a trade war with Canada in almost a century.
It's hard to know how this is all going to work out. It's certainly unprecedented to do that to especially Canada, one of our closest allies.
Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced retaliatory 25% tariffs on U.S. goods. Since Canada buys more than a quarter of Minnesota's exports, if they start to look elsewhere, that could mean a big hit for the land of 10,000 lakes, especially with agriculture.
I think it's rather short-sighted. I think that it's going to have overall a negative effect in terms of the economy, and I'm definitely not in favor of them.
That was Joe McCoy reporting. Meanwhile, FBI employees are now being questioned about their roles in the January 6 riot investigations. Agents will be asked to complete a questionnaire about their involvement as the Justice Department weighs disciplinary action that could result in people being fired. The questions revolve around their involvement in the January 6 investigations, including whether they participated in search warrants, conducted interviews, and testified at trial. Today, the head of the nation's top watchdog agency for consumer finance is out of a job. President Trump fired him over the weekend. Rohit Chopra was the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. A CNN source says he was notified in an email. He announced his departure on social media, which included a letter addressed to Trump. He was appointed by President Biden in 2021, and his term was supposed to run through late next year. Now to the latest on last week's deadly plane crash in Washington, D.C. Today, the process of lifting the wreckage out of the Potomac River is underway. NBC's Tom Costello joins us from Reagan National Airport with the latest.
Good day. So as we speak, salvage teams are on the water here at the Potomac River, right off the end of the runway at Reagan National Airport. They are starting to raise the regional jet up and out of the water, and they are hoping that when they do that, that they will find the 12 remaining victims who have still not been pulled from the water. 55 victims have out of the 67 who died. They're also hoping today to get an accurate read on the black box from the Black Hawk helicopter to determine the exact altitude it was flying at the time of the crash. Now, the black box from the regional jet suggests it was at 325 feet. That would be above the 200-foot limit the choppers are supposed to fly at. The ATC scope is suggesting the chopper was at 200 feet. So there's a discrepancy between air traffic control recordings and the black box on the plane. They want to get an accurate reading on exactly the altitude for that helicopter and for the crash as this investigation continues. I'm Tom Costello at Reagan National Airport. Back to you.
Over the weekend, a heartbreaking scene as loved ones of the victims visited the site. Family members held a memorial along the river, then stopped by the runway where the flight was supposed to land on Wednesday. A large wreath was laid there for the victims. The Washington, D.C. fire chief says he met with families over the last few days.
I will say that they are a strong group of families that are focused on getting their loved ones back, and I think that's the appropriate place to be at this point.
Over the weekend, the Army also identified the 3 other crew members who died on the helicopter. We're following a couple of other scary situations this weekend on passenger flights, too. First, a flight out of MSP heading to Amsterdam was forced to turn around after a mechanical issue. Delta says the pilots on Flight 160 reported an issue yesterday with its flaps. The flight circled in the air for about 40 minutes to burn off fuel before landing. It safely landed, though, with firefighters standing by. And take a look at this video also from yesterday. This is down in Texas where a United Airlines flight had to be evacuated. 104 passengers and 5 crew members deplaned on the runway in Houston before the flight even took off. The airport says there was an issue with the engine. Fortunately, no one was hurt. In other headlines right now, a trial is underway for the alleged ringleader in what prosecutors have called the biggest pandemic funds fraud case in the country. Amy Bach was the executive director of Feeding Our Future. She's facing bribery and wire fraud charges. Today is the first day of the trial alongside the owner of a former restaurant that claimed to be a meal site. 2 other co-defendants pleaded guilty last week.